Alright, hello. In this lesson, we're going to start to read from files, text files. Okay, and eventually we'll be writing to text files too, but sort of the idea is if you have some sort of program, you don't want the user to have to enter the data every time. You want to be able to save it. So you could think of a video game, right? If you start a new video game, you create a character, blah, 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 you give it a name, choose a class, all that stuff. You want to be able to save it, and the next time you load the program, have that character there for you. You won't want it to disappear, right? And then have to recreate it every time. Same thing with campus, right? Think of every time our campus program loads, you don't want to have to create all the 2,000 students at our school every single time. That'd be a pain in the butt. So you need to be able to store that data and then access it in future times. And one of the ways you can do it is reading and writing to files. Again, in real life, they use something called a database, which is just like a really complex structure for files, I guess. But for all of these, I just think of like spreadsheets. I think of like a giant spreadsheet or Google Doc where you have like rows and columns, and then you store the data in there. All right, and so the one we're going to do, all right, we're going to do just a pretty basic example today here about superheroes. And so here's kind of the steps. We have to create a class in Java for superhero. Then we're going to populate it from a text file, and we're going to actually have to make the text file ourselves here. And then we're going to read the data using scanner, and then probably use that string.split method that we did from the other day also here. And then we're just going to put it in an array list of superhero objects. So basically, our array list is going to be superhero objects. And then we can start to answer basic questions from there. All right, so let's start with the superhero class .java. So basically, if you want to do this with me, sorry, I already got a bunch of files here open, but basically I'd make a new package. So this is, I put this in chapter 11, even though it's not really in our book. And then if you want to do like a reading and writing files, that's kind of what I did here, and then put my superhero in there. Since I already have it here, I'm going to make another package called coding in class. But basically, however you want to set it up, and then to make a package and then do a new class called superhero. Okay. And basically, we're going to do our 4 parts of the class here, right? We've got the data, which is the instance variables. We got to do constructor, and then potentially we got to do get and set, or just basically just methods, right? So maybe add a few methods here, but this hopefully is reviewed from the previous chapter. And so for data, all right, we know they should be private. And there's a lot of things we could track on a superhero: what their powers are, what their name is, what their costume looks like, maybe even an image if we were making some sort of video game. We do how many kills they have, who their arch nemesis is. There's a ton of things. Okay, but to keep it simple, I'm just going to do it the name, track their name, so make a private string for name, and then I'm going to do a private int for the number of kills they have. Okay, so I'm just going to do 2 basic ones since this is just our first example here, and to make it kind of basic. Okay, so I'm going to let you make the constructor. I'd pause the video, make the constructor, and then make at least maybe 1 or 2 methods. That would make sense here for a superhero. So pause the video and give it a shot. Okay, so for the constructor, we need to go public superhero. And I do think I like making one that's not default, that has like their name coming in, and then their number of kills coming in. Okay, and all the point of the constructor is to set that data. So we're going to set this instance name variable to be name in, and then num kills is going to be num kills in. And then methods, you really could do a lot of things here, but I don't know. I sometimes add these as needed, but I'm going to do a void one that is get kill or something, right? So that they're just going to get a kill of a bad guy here, and then I'm just going to plus to num kills. Okay, and then, I don't know, we could make some other ones here, but like, we could do set the kills in case we need to reset their kills or something. So maybe I'll do set kills and take that in. So do an int kills in, and just overwrite the current one. So that num kills becomes kills in. Okay, and there we go. That's all we need. Okay, so now we actually need some data to read. Okay, so in order to do that, we're going to make a text file. Okay, and you sort of want to put it just in like the chapter 11 programs. Actually, I don't remember this. I'm going to look quick. But you want it to look like this, basically, and just have some basic heroes. So like this one, I have Superman with 200 kills, Spider-Man with just 2, and then Hulk, he's a monster with 10,000 kills there. And you could put different separators here for that string.split method, but I'm just going to use space. Okay, and so just to show you, I'm actually going to go to my file system here. And basically, I go to my workspace, click on chapter 11 programs, and then that's where you want to make the text file. So again, it's workspace, chapter 11 programs. I'm just in my file explorer here, and then do a new sort of text file. So at least on Windows, I would just control click or right click and do a new text document and call it like superheroes.txt. But I would do it exactly like it's shown here. And then once you have that file created, just put some heroes in there. And you can put whatever heroes you want, but put the name of the hero, a space, then their number of kills, and then a return for the next hero. Okay, so we could, I don't know, we could add one more here. We could do Wonder Woman, and she has, I don't know, 500 kills or something like that. Okay, and you can make kind of however many you want in there. And that's it. Okay, and again, you want that file. That file needs to be right under workspace and then chapter 11 programs, and put it right there. And then our program is going to read from that file and then potentially like look at which hero has the most kills or something like that. Maybe we'll do a basic thing like that. Okay, next up is we actually want to read the data from the file. So this is going to be a new new.java file, and I have some starter code here. So if you want to click on this starter code and then copy and paste it into Eclipse here. It's called Reading from SuperHeros Starter. I didn't know a better name for this, but basically get it into Eclipse. So I don't know, I'm just going to copy and paste the code. What did I even name that thing again? Reading SuperHeros Starter. Reading SuperHeros Starter. Okay, and then I'm just going to paste it in there. Bam. Okay, so I just need to change my package name here. Okay, and then I'm going to kind of walk you through how to code it. And there's a couple things. There's a bunch of import statements here because we're going to be using files probably for the first time. And then we're going to be using scanner again. All right, and then there's a lot of good like notes here that this will help you as you do some projects later on when we're reading or writing the files. So it tells you where to put that text file, which we already did that superheroes.txt file. And then it just has a lot of good notes on it. So here's our main. All right, and it just talks about. There's the file we made, and it is in this format. It's hero name with a space, then the number of kills. And here's some examples from what we made in that file. And then there's going to be sort of two ways to do it. So we're going to put it into a single array list, which I think by far makes the most sense. I'm not even sure why I put this second to put into 2 array lists here, but let's do it in 1 array list. And so sort of the idea is we want to make an array list of superhero objects. Okay, so hopefully in our Explorer here, we've already got superhero.java, and so we're going to make an array list of those heroes. So that is your first task. See if you remember how to make an array list of superheroes here. Pause the video. And it should look like this. Array list, and then in angle brackets is the type of thing we want to put in there, which is a superhero. And then just name it whatever you want. I'm going to call it heroes. And then do new array list again. angle bracket superhero, that's what's in there, and then parenthesis, parenthesis, and we'll have nothing in there at the start. So it'll be a blank array list of heroes. Okay, and we're going to get the data from that file. We are going to read and create a Superman object, a Spider-Man object, and a Hulk object using the data that is in that file. Okay, so I've made a bunch of notes here about how you actually do this. And so what happens when you try to read or write a file is you can get a file not found exception, which basically means it can't find the file. Okay, and that's why it's so important to have that file put where we talked about in the Explorer. So basically, you know, put it in Workspace, Chapter 11 Programs, and then put it right here. Okay, and then hopefully this will work to read the file. Okay, but we are going to put it in what's called a try-catch block, which basically just means we're going to try some code, and if an exception blows up, instead of having the red garbage just throw to the console here like it normally does, we're actually going to do something smart with that exception. So that red stuff is called like a runtime error, or an exception, and we're going to like take that and then actually do something more meaningful. Okay, so basically to do a try catch block, you type try and then a curly brace, and then after the try you do what's called a catch. And I'm going to do catch exception E. And you could catch specifically this file not found exception. I think it would be the same thing, but I'm just going to catch all the exceptions. This is just like a general thing, catch any exception. And then if my code blows up, I'm just going to print out like a message saying error reading the file. Okay, so just basically saying, hey, we couldn't read the file. And you could put specific like numbers like 1, 2, 3 here or something to say this is the exact spot where the error came from. But I don't know. This really isn't tested on the AP, but you got to do it to make the code compile here. You need to have a try-catch block. Okay, so what we're going to try to do is create the file and read from it. So the first step is we're going to do like create the file. So we're going to make a file object. So file, whatever. And then we're going to do new file, and then we're going to specify the path, right? And this is where you find it. And so that's where if you put it in the location we talked about up here, or is already shown in the Explorer, then it should be able to find it without anything else. So I think we just called it superheroes.txt. I'm going to just check to make sure I got that right here. It's superheroes.txt. So it has to be that exact name with that exact uppercase. Yeah, and as long as you put it in the right spot, it should be able to read it pretty easily. And if it doesn't, then we're going to get this file not found exception. Okay, so the next thing is to make a scanner and scan this file. So I'm going to make a scanner, scan, and then new scanner. And normally we've been reading system.in, which is what we've been reading information from, but now we're going to read it from that file. Okay, so we're going to essentially scan the data that is in that file. Just like we did when we did scan system.in, we are going to call scan.nextLine to read the next line of data. And that'll read like one line from our file, like Superman and then 200 and then Spider-Man and 2. And then we can use the .split method to get the individual pieces of data. Okay. So the only thing is we're going to do a while loop because we want to do it while there's still data in our file. So we're going to do while the scan dot has next, like has the next piece of data. I'm going to call scan dot next line to get it, and then that's actually going to be a string, and then we want to split it. Okay, because remember how that split method works? So the split method takes like a single line of text and splits it into multiple pieces using whatever like marker you want. And so for us, it's going to be spaces. Okay, so for us, we space our stuff out by spaces here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make, I'm going to call that. I'm going to basically make an array list of strings and then scan the data and split the data based on that delimiter. And I'm going to have to like make a new video because I'm out of time.